Am I scared of him?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not scared of him at all. I'm unhappy with him, very much so.
If some people walked into this bookstore and saw this, they would immediately look at this and go, oh, this is racism. This is racist.
I challenge you to look around and see how many books about George W. Bush are in here as well. Just because one political candidate happens to have, or elected official happens to have skin of a certain color, doesn't mean that people's concerns with his behavior are not valid.
What scares people about some in this various movement, which is not a unified movement by any chance, is military training, defense of owning guns, lots of ammunition, preparing for disaster, preparing for survival. Does any of that concern you? Or how should it not concern others?
It makes me feel safer. If you look around our society, who's actually committing acts of violence right now? Is it the people who are advocating individual gun ownership, or is it our government?
Tell me.
It's our government. And I challenge you to get on YouTube and to just search police brutality, especially since tasers came around. It's quite disgusting. There are people, mothers getting tased in front of their children because an officer thought the woman was using a cell phone. There are children being tased in schools, 11-year-olds. We have a very, very serious problem right now in our country with our government abusing not only our citizens, but people all across the globe.
What do you think is the end game of the fusion centers?
Total information awareness, quite frankly. I think that the fusion centers were designed with the intent of collecting data on everything possible. I think that it's not necessarily done with nefarious intentions. I think that some people really believe that by collecting all this information, they'll be able to predict future crimes and be able to prevent them. But ultimately, what it does is it puts us in a situation where nobody has a private personal life, and everyone's, down to your fingerprints, your facial biometrics, none of that's private anymore, and you won't have the choice to participate in such a system or such a society.
Is this society heading towards socialism or worse?
Some would argue we're already there. But I would say we are definitely headed toward a complete, total centralization of power and information, without a doubt.
In Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that's what they're attempting to do. It's happening all over. As I mentioned, the Fusion Center is an example of how it's happening with law enforcement. It's also happening with our electoral branches. Right now, there's sort of a 10th Amendment revolution happening, if you will, where states all over the country are stepping up and saying, you know what, federal government, no, I don't think so. We're not going to participate in this unfunded mandate or even funded mandate. Or no, we're not going to take your resources anymore voluntarily. So it's happening on many levels, whether it be in law enforcement, whether it be with information, whether it be with your actual electoral government. You have a centralization of power happening.
Yeah. Let me ask you a few rapid fire questions we follow, to talk about the various conspiracies. 9/11, government conspiracy?
I don't know, but everyone should question it.
Obama, born or not born in the U.S.?
I don't know, but everyone should question that at this point too.
Is the government preparing FEMA camps?
Yes, HR 645.
Do you believe to intern U.S. citizens?
I don't know. I hope not. But because DHS is profiling people like me as right-wing extremists for espousing views that they consider radical because I believe in a decentralization of power, they may be. Historically,
You really think you potentially become a political prisoner in this country?
it's happened before. World War II. And right now, the route our country is going down, they are profiling people like me. Now, the MIAC report in Missouri that was released this time last year that said people who voted for Ron Paul, Bob Barr, Chuck Baldwin, people who are members of Campaign for Liberty should all be considered potentially radical violent militia members, that was retracted. But the fact of the matter is, that still went out to all law enforcement in Missouri and surrounding communities. The DHS right-wing extremism report has not been retracted. So if they're going to be profiling people as potential terrorists, and they're going to be building no fewer than 6 long-term internment camps, if HR 645 is passed into law that calls for long-term long-term health, education, transportation, housing needs, I don't know. But right now, I don't like the direction this is heading, and I want to prevent that.
Come here, because I now see another book. Is this the direction?
I don't know.
But it sounds like what you're describing.
Possibly. It's sad, isn't it?
Caesar Chavez, but
You good?
No, I got a couple of questions.
All right, let's come back to the light.
go into the light.
You guys want to me to ask anything you're not hearing?
Is there something we're missing before we go into